thank you all for being here with Cynthia Peters, who is going to give an introduction and some really good tips on how to utilize the change agent in your programs. The change agent is a wonderful, wonderful tool, and there's many ways to get involved with it. And so welcome to Cynthia, and let's go ahead and get started, and we can cover any questions at the end.
Thank you so much, Sherilyn, and thanks for having me. Thanks to all of you for being here this afternoon. If you want to share your video, that would be great. I understand if you don't or can't or whatever, that's fine too. But if anybody's moved to let me see who I'm talking to, that always makes a difference. I think for all of us, we can see who's in the room. I'm also just really curious if people have heard of the change agent, or if you've even used it maybe, or helped your students submit to it. We have been getting wonderful submissions from California libraries. So it might be somebody here in the room who's played a role in that, making that happen. So I'd love to know about it if that's you. And we're a small group, so I'm going to occasionally be inviting you to unmute and speak up. So be prepared for that, or to add your thoughts in the chat. And I'm also going to be sending you off on a field trip to explore certain parts of the change agent. And we're going to spend time helping you log into the change agent. So it's going to be quite interactive. So I'm glad you all are here. And I think what I'll do is I'll just share my screen to let you know, to let you see my slides and take you through a little introduction. I didn't hear back from anybody about whether you are familiar with the change agent, so I think I'm going to assume that you might not be. What I would like to do is, during this hour, is do a little warm-up activity, during which I really am hoping you can unmute and share a little bit with me. Then I'm going to take you through some digital literacy terms, both to help you log into the change agent and so that you'll have these terms to share with others, if that's helpful. We're going to take some time to actually log into the change agent. I'll share the credentials that you need to be able to do that. And then we're going to dive in a little bit more deeply into some change agent content and talk about how you can use it to teach basic skills. So this is my warm-up question. What is a brave decision that you or your parent or someone else you know made? And that might sound a little bit random. It is connected to a change agent article that we're going to be reading later on during this hour. And so I thought it's also a little bit connected to sort of the idea of how we try to, or the kind of writing that we're looking for in the change agent. So I wonder if anybody would bravely step forward and share a brave decision that you've made, or somebody you know has made, or maybe a parent has made. The title of the article we're going to be diving into deeply is called "My Mother is a Brave Woman." And so that's the article we're going to be reading. It's an amazing story. So yeah, would anybody be willing to share? And I'm sorry to put you on the spot, Sherilyn, but if you have something you would like to share.
I actually do have something to share.
Great.
So my child just had his 17th birthday and is in the process of getting his driver's license. Mm-hmm. And the husband's been doing like all of the driver's training and everything with him, because all of our cars are manuals except for the one that we got for him.
Wow.
Right. So he can't normally drive in my car. Mike usually has the Honda with James. So for the very first time, we went to dinner on Friday and I rode with him on the freeway to the next town in the rain. And I had to consciously make that decision to do it and to not say anything. So
did your foot reach for the brake occasionally?
At one point, I just kind of like closed my eyes. He's a good driver. He's very cautious and everything. But I realized maybe I should have made that change a little bit, or made that decision a little bit sooner instead of, jumping in both feet in a pouring down rainstorm
On the freeway.
on the freeway at night. So yeah, that was my most kind of like decision.
Very brave, Mama.
Yep.
Shout out to you. That takes a lot. And then we do that a lot with our kids. We, whether it's driving or any other thing they're taking on, sometimes we have to just sit and try not to say anything and let them go.
Yep.
So Chelsea has added to the chat, a brave thing my mother did was donate her bone marrow after joining the donor registry and being notified that she was a match for somebody. Wow. She inspired me to join the bone marrow donor. That's amazing. That's a great story, Chelsea. Wow. Thanks for sharing that. And that inspired you. That's great. Somebody else. Let's get one or two more people. Something that you did. Something that your parent did. Maybe I'll say something. Okay, Stephanie says, a family member came out. Okay. Yeah, that is a very brave thing to do. I hope it went well, Stephanie. I was going to share that, one of my daughters was a very late reader. She just was not ready to read when everybody in school was learning to read. And she came home saying, "Am I dumb, Mom? Do you think I'm dumb?" And I said, "No, I don't think you're dumb." And I did something that felt just crazy at the time. I just took her out of school. And I just said, let's just stay home and do school at home. She didn't learn to read until she was 9. I want you to know that was really, really hard. But she loves reading. She's 30 years old now. She does not have that hurt of, oh, maybe I'm stupid, maybe I'm a bad reader, because we just let her wait till she was ready. And then when she was ready, she learned to read like in like 6 weeks. I mean, it just was crazy. And then she went straight to reading like big, thick books, So, but I felt like I was jumping off a cliff when I took her out. This is, anyway, I look back on that. I'm proud that she's loves reading now. Anybody else want to share something? And if you'd like, just put it in the chat if you're still pondering. So thank you to the people who did share. I really appreciate that. Well, I think you all will be moved by the article that we're going to read later. So let me just tell you a little bit about the Change Agent and what it is. It used to be a print magazine, and then it became a print magazine with a bunch of online material as well. Now it's all online. During the pandemic, we basically had to stop printing, and all of our material is online now. So it's an online magazine. The content is available in a lot of different formats, which I'll share with you, and also many different levels. And all the stories are written by adult learners, some of them real beginners, honestly. And what I encourage is for students to write at the level that they're at. I don't want students to write in their native language, drop it into Google Docs, and then have a very kind of a piece with a lot of really hard vocabulary. I invite students to write at their level, because that's the students, their peers at that level that are going to be reading that piece. So I invite all different levels. And the other thing about the magazine that's something to notice is that all the writing is by students, almost all the writing, 95%. And so we're really lifting up student voice, and we're picking issues and topics that matter to adult learners, and then we're letting them talk about it and sharing their voices and their perspectives on that topic. So the magazine and the readers are peers. Okay, Rosalinda says, we homeschool our son as well, and that was something that took bravery. Yeah, totally agreed. I hope it's been going well, Rosalinda. So let's take a little time. I want to show some slides that have the digital literacy terms that we need to be able to log into the Change Agent. And I'm sharing these slides at this level of detail, partly because you're going to get a copy of these slides. And these might be useful if you go back to your program, if you want to share with your tutors, or your students, or if you are a student and you're sharing with other students, or if you're a teacher and you're sharing with multiple folks, you might use these slides to help people log into the change agent. So some of the digital literacy terms that are useful are things like hot link, username, password, log in or log on, click on the link, that kind of thing. And so those are terms that you can teach as you're going through this process of supporting students to log in. When you get to the top page of the Change Agent website, and I'm going to drop in the link in a minute, you see up here the URL, that's our address on the internet. Okay, it stands for something, uniform something locator, I don't know. Nobody remembers that, and it doesn't matter. It's just the address on the big World Wide Web. And then over in the right corner, there's a place to put your username and a place to put your password. And as you can see, your username and password are really easy. They're CLLS and CLLS. So really, really easy to remember, easy to share with students and teachers and tutors. And so what I'm going to do right now is just put in the chat the link to the website. It'll take you right to our website. And if you put in CLLS as the username and the password, you should be able to log in. So I'm just going to give you all a second to do that. And I would love it if you could come back to the chat and let me know that you made it in. That is another thing, another piece of vocabulary that if you are walking your students through this, to talk about uppercase and lowercase, and that it matters, and how to get uppercase on your phone or on your computer. I do have my students log in on their phone. That is a really powerful tool. If they have a smartphone and they can log into the change agent, you're going to see a bunch of audio that students can listen to. And if they are logged in on their phone and they save the username and password in there, they never have to log in again, but they'll be able to get access to this great content. And let me go back to sharing my slides. And I'm going to actually send you around to a couple places and ask you to check them out. But first I'm going to show you the places, and then I'm going to have Sherilyn put the links in so you can go to them. So I'm sharing my screen now. I'm going to log myself in, and there's two tabs that I want to make sure you know about, and then I'm going to ask you to go check out. So one is the issues tab, and this is the tab where you get to see our current issue and all of our back issues. And I'm just scrolling down a little bit so you can see we have lots and lots of issues on a wide range of topics. So I'm going to send you to this link and ask you to explore here a little bit, and like say you're interested in this topic, play. Oh, what do adult learners have to say about play? You can click on it and you'll get to a page like this that has a table of contents. You'll see some of the articles are available in audio if they have the little headset. The articles are sortable by level, so you can find the most beginning level pieces all the way up to much more advanced levels. This is grade level equivalent, by the way. And you can find all kinds of other things in here. So that's the play issue, but we have, all sorts of topics here. So I'm just going to actually get you to go there now. Stephanie's in, yay. Okay, Sherilyn, if you could put in the issues. Yes, thank you so much. So in the chat, there's a connection to the issues tab, or maybe you've navigated there yourself. And I would like you to just scroll down a little bit and check out a topic, and then just come back and maybe share with me a topic that's looked interesting to you.
I'll share. I landed on the one about celebration, and went through the list of articles, and I think that sometimes it seems like our conversations are just so fraught with peril these days, depending on who we're talking to, or what role we're in while we're talking, or what we're talking about, that it is, it takes a lot of additional thought in addition to the thought you want to share to be able to do that. And the celebration one, it always talking about celebration always seems to me to be something that is so easily accessible and shareable by all of us in so many ways. And it's almost like a joyful conversation instead of one of those possibly fraught with peril conversations. So I really like that.
I love
You
that term,
included
fraught.
that.
A lot of topics are fraught with peril. That is so true. And, you know, the change agent does not shy away from those topics. So it is something to be on the lookout for. If you don't want to quite go to the fraught with peril topics right away, like say you're new to your students or you're just getting to know somebody and that's not the right thing to do at the beginning of a relationship, then yeah, find the change agent articles that are a little bit less fraught with peril. FWP for short. Find the ones that are a little bit more easy to, or less controversial, easier to just get to know each other by talking about the piece, and not going to send you right into a big debate or perhaps be triggering for somebody. But you will notice when you page through the change agent that, you know, these are adult learners talking about adult topics, and sometimes they're sad, sometimes they're challenging. So yeah, be thoughtful about that. I think the celebrations issue is great too, because, you know, every year it's relevant again, right? Every year we go through the same holidays, you know, over and over and over again. And the change agent has reflections on not every holiday, but a lot of them, you know, including the cover story there, which is about Juneteenth, which is, you know, just a wonderful go-to piece every, you know, when you come around to that early summer. So yeah, check that out, because that's true about the change agent. A lot of our stuff is not really so news oriented, so it doesn't get out of date. It's more issue oriented, so it kind of stays relevant for a long time. I just want to mention that Stephanie mentioned issue 48, the Indigenous Peoples issue, a really rich issue to check out. Chelsea mentions The Impossible is Possible. I think that might have been written by somebody in the California library system who goes to is tutored through the California library. If my memory serves, I can't remember. You can see the bio in every article. There's a short bio and usually a photograph of the writer. So it might say in the bio what library she was taking classes in. And yeah, it is very positive. Somebody else, what did you notice? I see Mara has joined us, and Mara, you're welcome to unmute or add to the chat. And also, Mara, did you get to, I don't know if you can see the link to the change agent so that you can log in. You might, if you've just joined a little bit later, you might not see it, but let me grab it from a previous chat. Oh, Mara, you are in because you went to the career pathways. Yes, a really important topic for our learners, because, you know, a lot of learners are coming to learn English because they want to get better jobs. There's also an issue called good jobs, not just any jobs. And Chelsea's saying, yeah, she's from Alameda, the person who volunteered at her library. It's a great story of volunteering and then evolving into a paid position. I think in that piece also she has really great strategies that she shares. Mara says she's looking at these. Can I still be somebody? Yeah. Do you want to unmute and say any more about that piece, Mara? And I can't remember which issue that one's in, but maybe it's in the career pathways. Yeah. Well, thank you all for scrolling around in there. I think, you know, it's a little bit of a rabbit hole, because honestly, there's so much content there. But, you know, if you're working with say you have a student who's really interested in food and you talk about cooking and stuff, we have an issue on food. Or if health, physical health or mental health comes up, we have issues on that. We have issues on transportation, immigration, the pandemic, jobs, you know, all sorts of topics, hair even. So you can almost always find something that's going to be engaging for your learner. You can let them scroll through and see what they're interested in and let them lead the way. So now let's go, and Sherilyn, if you don't mind getting the other link, that would be great. But what I'm going to do is share my screen again and show you something else. And then you're going to be able to go check it out yourself. So this is under the resources tab. And this is the not the first blue heading, but the second blue heading. It's called Index with Article Reading Levels and Audio. And Sherilyn's going to put in the direct link to this spot. And when you click on it, what you get is this huge index. See, it just goes on and on and on. It's, I don't know, hundreds of articles, a lot of articles, and it's sortable by level. So if you really have some true beginners and you look at one issue of the change agent, and in one issue you don't see much content that's going to work for them because the text just looks too dense, you can come at the content this way. So instead of by issue or topic, you can come at it by level. So now you can get to our most basic pieces. You can see there's not too many. There's only 2 level 1 and more level 2s, and then like a bunch of level 3s. But you're going to find stuff in here for your beginners. And then you can, again, they can click on the audio, and let's see what this looks like. They can click on one play button and listen to the whole piece read out loud. They can click on these play buttons by chunk, and they can listen to one chunk over and over again. They can see the picture of the writer and read her bio. So that's what the audio looks like. So now I'd like you all to check that out, if that's okay. Sherilyn, she's got the link in there. So if you don't mind clicking on it, I just want you to explore clicking on that word level so that you can see how it sorts by level, maybe checking out the audio of 1 or 2 of the pieces. And again, come back, let me know if you got in there okay. Let me know if you listened to any audio. I know I'm moving a little bit quickly, but I'm kind of trying to achieve 2 things at the same time, letting you dip in a little bit, get a little bit of a feeling for it, navigate the site a little bit so that you feel comfortable, and then just come back and ask any questions or tell me something that you noticed or something that looked interesting to you. And again, I know people are using the chat, so I'll be looking in the chat to see what people are noticing. And then what I would like to do is just go back to the slides. And I want to share with you, I want to get ourselves to this article that I told you about, My Mom is a Brave Woman. And I'm inviting you to come back now to the Zoom and see what I'm sharing on the screen. The article is available in 3 formats as a PDF. So that is very easy to print out. And, if you're working with students one-on-one in person, they can have a copy in front of them and they can take notes on it. If they bring it, if you want to print it out and then send it to their home, or they could pick up materials, they could take it home. With your change agent access, you can print out as much as you want. You can print out single articles, you can print out whole issues. You have unlimited access to all the content with these credentials that I've shared with you today. And not only that, but you can share them with everybody in the California library system who's doing this work, with all of your students. It's completely unlimited. So please, I'm really hoping that you'll share these credentials with everybody and show them how to log in, maybe sit with them while they do it so that they can really get in there and take advantage of this content. So one of those formats is the PDF. Another format, as you've seen now, is the audio. And this is kind of what it looks like with those play buttons. And then a new thing that we've been trying is we've been putting our content into Google Slides, because we're aware that some people are teaching remotely. And so if you have a shared screen, you can be looking at these slides together. And also putting the content on Google Slides allows us to add more images and just play with it. And it's like put it out there in a different way. And so it's a little bit more accessible. So this article is available in those 3 formats. It's also available at 2 levels. Now, I don't always do this, but sometimes I take one article and I adapt it to be at an easier level. So the one you're looking at here is the sort of slightly easier level. And then this one is and it was 1 page. This is a 2-page article, and it's slightly harder. So there's a lot of things as a teacher you could do with this. You could have your student first read the easier version, and then that could act as a scaffolding to the slightly more complex version, the one with harder vocabulary, maybe longer, more complex sentences. But if they already know the story, it could ease their way into a more complex level. So that is a teaching strategy that you could come up with, if you like. So this is what the audio looks like. The thing that I like to say about audio is, it's all the obvious stuff that they get to hear it read out loud. So they get to practice pronunciation. They get to see the text while they hear it being read. They get to hear inflection, pronunciation. It promotes reading fluency. It promotes comprehension, because the inflection and the expression in the reading helps communicate meaning. So that helps the student understand when they might not, if they were just reading it themselves. The other thing it teaches, I think, is it teaches punctuation, because when this is read, the comma that you see there has a pause to it. It has a sound to it, and it's different from the sound of a period. It's different from the sound of a question mark or an exclamation mark, or, punctuation marks have a sound to them. And so when students hear the sound of the punctuation and then see it at the same time, that's another way to learn it. Now, of course, you can always teach comma rules, right? But you can also kind of give students another way into it by letting them listen to it. And then finally, the Google Slides. So what I would like to do here is actually have us go to these Google Slides and poke around a little bit. And we're going to read it. And I might just have you, maybe we can read it out loud together. Before we start reading it out loud together, I want to mention that a lot of the Change Agent articles have before you read and after you read activities. So this is the before you read activity for this article. And notice the question, it's the same as our warm-up question. What is a brave decision your parent made or that you have made? That is what research shows, is that if a reader kind of starts to address a topic in their mind or think about what they're about to read, it surfaces the vocabulary, it surfaces the concepts, it kind of prepares the neural pathways in the brain for the reading that's about to happen. And so comprehension is increased because their mind, their brain is prepared for the content that's coming. So this question isn't just an interesting question, which I think it is. It isn't just a chance to improve your relationship and get to know each other, which I also think it is. It's all those things, but it's also a way to prep your mind for the reading. And then there's just a much more direct way to do that, which is to look at these words that come up. They're Spanish words that come up in the article. And the direction is just learn this vocabulary. So you could just look it up, or if you know it, you could explain it, or maybe the student is a Spanish speaker, maybe they're going to already know it. So just get used to that vocabulary. Okay, so let's go to the actual Google Doc now, or Google Slides. If you could share that, Sherilyn, thank you so much. Everybody look at the chat and click on the Google Slides. So I'm still sharing my screen. I see a few people in there. Gonna hopefully get a couple more people in there. But if you can't get in for any reason, I'm sharing my screen so you can still see it. The first thing I want you to notice is that the first slide says how to use the resource. So you can use it exactly how it is. It's in view only for you. You can't modify this Google slide as it is now. But if you wanted to modify it, you could go to File and make a copy, and then make a copy of the entire presentation. Now you own it and you can adapt it. You could add more images. You could add quizzes. You could do whatever you want to it. It's yours. Okay. The only thing we ask you to do is please don't change the text of the student writer, because it's her story. And so that shouldn't be changed. If you don't have a Google account, you won't be able to make a copy, but you can always just download the slides into a presentation software like PowerPoint. Okay, so, or you don't have to do that. You can just use it exactly the way it is. So then when you get to the text, here it is. My Mom is a Brave Woman. It's by Maria Martinez Cruz. It has the before you read activity here. And so if it's okay with you, I'm just going to kind of quickly read it. And that way we'll all have a shared, we'll all hear the same story. A hard decision. One day, Mom sat down in a chair and told us that we were going to the United States to live with our dad. Mom made the decision because she knew that my sister and I were in danger. I was 11 years old. My sisters were 9 years old and 5 years old. We took Gang's Thirst La Migra. We took the bus to San Luis, Sonora. That is where we met the coyote. He would take us through the desert to the US. On the first day, we started walking through the desert. We walked at night. Everything was okay until the third day when gangsters assaulted us. The gangsters took all the money and everything that was valuable. The next day was worse. We encountered a gang called Los Burreros. They are a gang that kidnaps people. Thank God we were able to hide and escape from them. Unfortunately, this gang caught another group of people. As we were running away from them, we could hear shooting and people screaming. On the fifth day, when my sister wanted to pee, I took her behind some bushes. When we came back, everyone had disappeared. We were very scared because we didn't see our mom and sister or the coyote. After a couple of minutes, the coyote grabbed us and pulled us behind one of the bushes. He told us to stay quiet since La Migra was around. I didn't know at the time what La Migra was. On the sixth day, we were out of water. We were very thirsty. After a couple of hours, we found a cow's stable. Mom took water from the cow's trough and gave it to us. She didn't say anything at the time, but I still remember the smell and the taste of the water. The next morning, my mom looked bad. She was crying and sat under one of the trees. She told me we were almost there. She removed her shoes and her feet had a lot of blisters. They were bleeding. Stacked like wood in a truck. The last day, we were waiting for a truck to take us to the place where we were going to stay until we could see our dad. When the truck arrived, they piled us on top of each other as if they were stacking wood or pallets. My sisters and I were at the top. They took us to a farm near Houston. The people in charge of the farm gave us water and food. That was my first time trying a cheeseburger and fries. One of the ladies took us on a walk through the farm to meet all the animals. We stayed there until they reunited us with our dad. Reward. I still ask myself what would have happened if we had stayed in Mexico. It was a hard journey to come to the United States, but now we have new opportunities and we have learned another language and culture. Every effort and achievement has its own reward, and I can say that Mom already has hers. My mom is a brave woman. So there's a couple more slides. There's about the author. There's an after you read section. And then there's a survey you can fill out to say what you thought about, using the content in this way. So that was the story. What I'd like to do now is hear if you had any comments about that. If there's anything in the chat that I noticed from before, Chelsea saying it's nice how you can click on one sentence at a time to have it read at your own pace. You're referring to the audio, right? Exactly. You can go at your own pace. You can click on the same chunk over and over again if you like. But what do you think about that story? Can you imagine? Remember, we have it available in PDF format, in audio at 2 levels, and also in Google Slides. Here are the after you read activities. It says the author says her mother is a brave woman. What evidence does she share in the text to back up her claim? So that is one of those questions where it's a really important college and career readiness skill, that ability to go to the text and point to evidence and kind of use the discipline of keeping your thinking oriented towards a text. It's also, of course, possible to go on tangents. And if you're working with learners, let them take the topic in whatever direction they want. That could lead to amazing speaking and listening opportunities, and also could lead to people getting to know each other more, telling their stories, talking about what surprised them about the story, or how they resonate with the story or don't resonate with the story. I mean, there's controversial claims in there, perhaps, that people might want to take issue with. But this activity here of asking the reader to say what evidence the writer offers to back up her claim that her mother is a brave woman, that is one of those college and career readiness skills that is really important for a reader to be able to use that skill to point to the text and share the evidence. So that's why I put that activity there. And you'll see there's only 2 activities here. You could do a million activities with this piece. You could kind of work off of this piece for several sessions with your students. Here, the second activity is read another story about crossing the desert. So in that same issue of The Change Agent, there's another one called Crossing Two Rivers. And this one is from the perspective of a mother. So that one we just read was from the perspective of a daughter. And then there's another one from the perspective of the mother doing the same thing. How are the perspectives of the writers similar? How are they different? So again, another college and career readiness skill that's important, being able to compare 2 texts, be able to talk about the perspective being written from, etc. So any thoughts about that story? How did it strike you? And, the next part of the webinars, I wanted to ask you if you had any ideas about how you might teach that story to teach basic skills like reading, writing, speaking, listening, or even digital literacy. Because if you're navigating around on the slides or the audio, that there's some digital literacy that's required there to be able to click on the audio and have success listening to it. So I would love to hear some feedback about that piece. And if you could, again, I'm noticing people aren't unmuting. So if you just want to put your comments in the chat, what Sherilyn and I will do is we'll copy your notes about how you might use it, and we'll put it in a slide, and then we'll be able to share it back to you. You'll get a copy of these slides, and we'll be able to share, what you all generate here back to you. So I wonder if anybody has any comments about that piece and how you might use it. If you're not a teacher, if you're a student, how would you like to see it used, or how would you work with it to improve your skills? Or if you're a program manager and you're going to take it back to your teachers, what would you highlight about it? Also, welcome Obaidullah. I'm sorry if I'm pronouncing your name wrong. Obaidullah Najimi. Welcome, you're just joining us. We just looked at a story that is available on Google Slides, and I'll paste the link in again so you can click on that link in the chat and go check it out. I actually think it's okay if you're not logged in to the Change Agent. I think you'll still be able to access that link. But Sherilyn, if you wouldn't mind maybe going back and getting the link to the Change Agent top page for this person, Obaidullah, and also putting in the credentials again, that would be great, so that they can access. So what do people think about using that story? Would that resonate with your learners? Why or why not? Is it too intense? I'm kind of like caught up on this phrase fraught with fraught with controversy. No, that wasn't the right fraught with peril, Sherilyn's phrase. I'm kind of thinking about that now and wondering if is it too controversial of a piece to share. What are your thoughts? Chelsea says, I think it would be great to share this with my tutors to see if they can inspire their learners to share their own stories. Yeah. Just, if the change agent story creates a pathway for a learner to share their story, that's worth its weight in gold. Right? Even if you don't get to these kind of look for the evidence and these college and career aligned activities, even if it's just they're going to say out loud their story, that's huge. So thank you, Chelsea. I totally agree. And I think that is the main value of the change agent, honestly, is that students see themselves reflected in the writing. So that acts as a pull, and it acts as a way to get over the obstacle of feeling like, oh, this text is too hard, or, it looks a little bit too hard, or there's a lot of words in here that I don't know. You're willing to get through that because you're interested and you're compelled by the fact that it's written by a peer. So Chelsea, I take it that you are not a tutor yourself, but that you'll be turning on and sharing this with tutors. So I hope for you, it might be useful to actually deploy these same slides that I created, because I do want to make it easy for you to now turn around and share with others what I'm sharing with you. So feel free to use these slides, delete what doesn't work, keep what you like, adapt it. Chelsea says, yes, definitely. Thank you. Good. And I hope that's true for others. I don't know if others here are program directors or coordinators of tutors. If you are, and if you have that opportunity where you have I don't know if you have a monthly meeting or a quarterly meeting or some way to get this out to them. Of course, you want to email everybody and share with them the link to the change agent and share the credentials, CLLS username, CLLS password. But it really makes a difference when you can do kind of what I'm doing here, which is offer a little bit of hand-holding, help people log in, show them around a little bit, let them explore, ask questions. Then I find it really makes a difference for people actually using the content. So thank you. If anybody else wants to comment on the article, I will definitely be checking back to the chat. But what I want to do in the last 10 minutes is just go back to the slideshow and let you know that we have an invitation out to students to write for the magazine. And this invitation comes out once a year, and it comes out in February. So the nice thing about having this webinar now is that you could be primed to share the call for articles when it comes out in February. So I can share the link to the call for articles page, but what you're going to see up there is not up to date. What you're going to see up there right now is just stay tuned for the call for articles coming out in February. It will be published by February 15th at the latest. It might be up earlier than that. But once that call is published, it would be wonderful if you could share that with all of your tutors, because I would love it if they could bring it to their students and propose to them, do any of these prompts look interesting to you? Do you want to write for a national magazine? If a student's piece is published, they get a $50 gift card, which is kind of a nice incentive. They get published in a national magazine, they get their byline out there, they can have their photograph accompany the article. It's a very proud moment. And students tell me often that even when their piece is rejected, which unfortunately I do have to reject a lot of pieces because I get, hundreds and I can't accept them all. But even when their piece is rejected, they still feel like, wow, I was treated like a writer, and, an editor of a national magazine, communicated with me, and we had an email back and forth. And and then I always encourage people to try writing again. So it's a great way to teach writing. It's a great way to encourage a student to do those kinds of things, like take notes, talk it through and take notes, write a draft, get feedback, write another draft, get more feedback. Get feedback from peers, get feedback from you. Those skills are so important. And one of the important things that you can do if you're a tutor is help students dig deep. You know, obviously you want to navigate carefully there. You know, students need to be in charge of what they're sharing, and but it often helps if you can encourage them by asking questions, helping them share a little bit more. You know, what I've noticed in my experience working with students is that they're not necessarily used to being asked to share more or to think very deeply on a topic. And so encouraging them to do that and really speak from the heart, it helps kind of make the piece more compelling. And you know, we want to publish pieces that are compelling and that resonate and that have a powerful, you know, offer a powerful lens into the lives of learners. So it can be a really rewarding experience. And I hope that, I hope that all of you will be on the lookout for that. And Sherilyn, I'll definitely communicate with you about when the call is published, and then if you could share it with your contacts, and then likewise they can then share it out with their contacts. You know, we can really spread the word and get lots of great pieces from California.
Yeah, we can absolutely do that.
Thank you. I'm working on the prompts for the call for articles right now, and I know that the topic is going to be something along the lines of success skills, resilience, you know, student persistence. You know, what are the challenges you faced, and how have you what skills have you marshaled to overcome those challenges? Where have you found pockets of resilience in yourself? How did you do it, basically? So it's going to be a lot of success stories. I think it's going to be really positive, and it's going to maybe offer tools, because you'll see learners will get to see, oh, this is what other students do, you know, to make things work out in their favor. And I could try that too. Okay, so I'm going to stop sharing and just sort of check in with people. And I know that we have a survey that we would like you to fill out, so you can give us your comments about you know, how this webinar was for you. I want to just slide to acknowledge that the webinar was brought to you with the support of the California Library Literacy Services and the Literacy Initiatives LSTA project. But what's a takeaway from this hour? What's something that stood out to you, something that you would like to try, something that you would like to share with other tutors, teachers, students? So Rosalinda's saying that she has another resource to use in tutoring as reading material. Yeah, you sure do. You have a lot of reading material here. Thank you. And I hope the topics, the way it's organized by topic or by level, will make it accessible for you. Chelsea says, I really like the audio option for some of the articles. I think my tutors learners will find that very useful. Great. I agree. You know, we did that because the folks who use the smart reading approach said to us, we need more audio, and we need audio that is relevant to adult learners. And we said, okay, we'll do that. So we started creating audio, basically, because it was requested.
You know, this is, I've used the change agent and everything. And one of the parts of it that I completely underutilized was the audio portion of the change agent. And seeing what is available, Cynthia, it also makes me think that for any of you that are looking to...
Oh, there she is. You got frozen. Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, sorry. Can you hear me now?
Mm-hmm.
So I was just saying, one of the parts that I've underutilized has been the audio portion. Never really considered incorporating that, but any of you who are considering applying for the ESL funding, you could actually request ESL funding for tablets for your program, load the change agent app on there and lock them down and actually make them check outable to your ESL students who are working, waiting for a tutor, or finding a way for them to access that site. So it's just another layer of access. So, and there are ESL funds available. So this is a great way of kind of melding a resource that is made available to you and applying for funds to enhance how that resource is used.
Wow, thank you for sharing that. That's so true. And it's such an important, you're teaching digital literacy skills. You're helping people use the tablet and helping them gain the vocabulary and the comfort or navigating around there, navigating around a website, and using technology to improve their basic skills, which is just so key these days. So I hope people can take advantage of that.
Yeah,
That's a great resource.
I was thinking, can you guys hear me? Sorry.
Yes, go ahead, Elizabeth.
I was thinking for like some of our very beginners, even just listening to the stories as a group might be good. I was just wondering what you would suggest for like a small group, maybe 10 students that are just very beginners, very hesitant to I really liked the way it was very like, not intimidating. I felt, like a lot of things where people say, oh, you can do this writing assignment. And it's like so intimidating. Like we're just not even there yet. So I really liked this but I don't have a lot of experience. So I was wondering what you would say this would be the best way to use this, maybe in like a small group setting with very beginners.
I mean, it might be good to give are these in person, Elizabeth?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I would give everybody a copy of the story. One of the beginner stories is called Gum in My Hair. And it's a story of a girl who, like a kid in school, put gum in her hair, and she went home and she got in trouble because, her mother got mad at her for, and it's just a really simple story, but very poignant in a way. It would just bring up lots of I think it would just be such a great conversation starter. People would have similar stories. Everybody could read it, holding the PDF in their hand. You could figure out what vocabulary to teach. I mean,
sure.
Right. Gum, what is gum? I mean, all the vocabulary, and then listening to the audio. What's a time when something like that happened to you? Funny, or maybe unfair, maybe not funny. And just seeing if people could tell a little bit of a story related to that one.
Yeah.
And yeah, just look around at those level 2 pieces.
Yeah.
And
a good discussion starter.
I think so. I really
bonding.
do.
Yeah.
And then, when it comes, if you are interested in having students write for the magazine, I just want to reemphasize the thing I said early on. It's really important to have students write with the English that they know. Not that they can't ask you or look up a word or two. Of course, that's part of the process. But the whole Google Translate thing, I'm telling you, I get so many articles that very clearly were just Google Translate. They're awful. Like, they're horrible to read. They're clearly not. And I really empathize with adults who they want to communicate a complex thought or feeling, right? Or narrative. And so they want to do it in their native language and then translate it in English and then send that. But that's not what the change agent is about. So if there's a way to really try to communicate that to your students, that the editor wants writing, and it's amazing what adults the complexity that people can write with, even, when their English skills are beginner level. Encouragement to you all to try that and to support your students to write. Thank you all so much for being here. Thank you for what you do out there in the world. I really love, adult education. I love the opportunities that it gives to our learners. And it's just amazing with so many, the army of people out there making it happen. And so I appreciate you all. Thank you, Sherilyn, for having me.